do it. Well, thank you for being my guest here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited about it.
Good. I'm glad. So tell us just a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, I'm a wife and a mom. I've been married for about 23 years and I have 6 kids, ages 11 all the way up to 21. So we've got college age and high school and ending elementary school age kids right now. So and I do things when I feel good.
Yeah.
I'm very involved in the Declare conference. We've been doing that for going on our 10th year, and I love that, ministering to women who feel called
Yeah.
to write and speak and all of that. And my passion right now is ministering to moms who maybe feel like they are not doing such a good job, but
Mm,
helping them to really believe what God says about them and the calling of motherhood, and helping them to understand that we do not have to be weary, and how to break that cycle of weariness in our
mm,
lives so that we can
yeah.
really, be empowered and use the tools and weapons that we have. So
Yes.
that's my like life story. You want to
Yes.
hear my health story? That's why we're here, right?
That is, yes, yes. So the group that you have, though, I just real fast, is called
Okay.
Brave Moms.
Brave moms. Yes.
Okay. And that's
Yeah.
like just a local group in your community or
It
what?
is, yes, but I
Okay.
also have a podcast. We have multiple groups in the DFW area, and we have some amazing leaders who take the women through those. And then I have a podcast it's
Oh,
Brave Moms, and Instagram and a website and all of that, so people outside of the area can connect with the ministry as well, and be
awesome.
encouraged. So yeah.
Oh, awesome. I love that. Okay. All right. I just wanted to like put that resource out there because I think it's great.
Okay.
I think people will love that.
Well, thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah, of course. All right. So then tell us about your health journey.
Okay.
So you have 6 kids.
I have 6 kids.
That in of
Yes,
itself is rough on a body.
it is. It is.
Yeah.
And I felt it for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think kind of all along, I've really been into health and natural stuff, and like really taking care of myself and my kids for a long time. I feel like my mom did a really good job of that when we were growing up, and just kind of helping us to have that healthy mindset. And so I've always been kind of more naturally minded and wanted to do things for my health. But I noticed kind of like in some pregnancies or after pregnancies, struggling to get my hormones back to normal for a while
Mm,
and that kind of thing.
hmm.
But the major stuff didn't start for me until after I had all my kids. Um, Fitz disease is something that a lot of kids get in school. It's very common, and
Hmm.
sometimes they'll send something home saying, this is kind of going around, and your kids might have a little fever, and they might have like their cheeks might look a little pink, like somebody like smacked them or something, and then
Right.
there's a rash that can happen on your arms, and so we were pretty sure that I had it, so no big deal. My kids come home and from school and had gotten it and were sick for a day and then felt better. But I got sick, and I got so sick. I had a high fever for a while. I felt like every single joint in my body was aching.
Mm,
I I felt like hunched over, like I couldn't even sit up straight for a while because my upper back hurt so bad, and my ears started ringing really bad when this first happened as well, and I could not figure out.
so what year was this?
This was 6 years ago this year, so
Okay.
2014.
Okay.
Yeah, and uh, long story short, what should have been something that was like a super
A
quick thing
non.
that most people get over, even adults typically get over, I kept having reoccurring symptoms. It was like every month, once a month, I would have like this setback where I felt like I was sick again. It took me 3 weeks initially to get past it.
Mm,
Um, I started having like crazy anxiety, and uh, just feeling really fatigued and all of this stuff. So it took me a long time. I saw about 5 different doctors
oh wow.
who, some of them were like I can't tell that anything's wrong with you. They do all this blood work and it doesn't make sense. We don't know how to help you. I actually had a doctor who ran like almost every single test you could possibly think of. And he has said to me, I can tell that you have a chronic infection, but I have no clue how to treat you. So come back and see me in 4 weeks. I was like, wait, you
Why?
told
Why
me
would I come
you
back to you
can't
in
help
4
me.
weeks? Yeah, okay.
That was so frustrating.
Yeah.
But I finally did find a good doctor who was like, yeah, this makes sense. This happens. It occurs sometimes. And your immune system was just at a low point, and you kind of had this like, I don't know, perfect storm of things going on in your body that allowed this to become something chronic for you. And so I've been on a healing journey ever since, in all
Yeah.
senses of that word. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So did they give you like an official diagnosis, or are they just like, you just are having a chronic inflammation like episode that we need to get under control and it's going to take a while?
No, he did give me a diagnosis. He basically said that it was chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia,
Okay.
and it was rooted in this chronic infection. And I had some candida issues that I needed to address. And there were a couple other things in there too that some of it we question if it came out of that stuff initially happening, like my
Right.
hormones were not
Chicken
balanced,
or
and
the egg, right?
yes,
Yeah.
yes, adrenal fatigue stuff.
Right.
But yeah, but I did get that diagnosis, which honestly, when I got the diagnosis, I was just relieved, like, okay, this is not all in my head. I really do feel things. All these other doctors who looked at me like I was crazy, and I hear that story and I think that's so nuts that a doctor would do that, but it happens. Like, it really happens. And so I completely empathize with people who are going through something that is so hard and so painful and feels like a loss in a lot of ways, because you lose a lot of your capacity. And then I know, I think I read recently you were saying that you had that experience too, didn't you? Where
I
so
felt
hard.
terrible, and they were like, well,
Yeah.
you've had 4 babies in 5 years.
Right.
I'm like, kind of, you made your bed, lay in it.
Oh my
You know what
goodness.
I mean? Like, yeah, of course you're tired. And I was like, oh, you're right. Of course I'm tired. But like, also, I'm tired to the point where I'm like sobbing at
Right.
the thought of having
Right.
to make
Like, can't
lunch
function.
for my
Yeah.
children. So
Yeah.
there's probably a little something more happening,
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, it's super frustrating. So I totally get that. So now that you have been kind of on a healing journey these last 6 months, do you are there things that you can point to that happened in your life and to your body, like as a kid, as a teenager, as a young mom, that you think maybe added to your body's kind of chronic stress and your susceptibility to having like adrenal fatigue and those kinds of things?
Yeah. Well, I think the main thing that I've learned is how I handle stress and how I've dealt with stressful situations. And I think that I had a tendency to, it's kind of funny because I say, like, I used to be very type A and like very organized and very on top of it. And
right, because you have 6 kids and you like have to.
Yeah, well, yeah, in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
There were just so many aspects of my life that I felt in control of. And, with that, I think with like wanting that and desiring that, you can like really let yourself get overstressed about things that don't even really matter, particularly when you have a bunch of kids and they're messing up, everything that you do. So I think that what I've discovered, and honestly, I wish I had learned it sooner in this process. I feel like I'm learning it more recently and now, is that my stress response, it essentially like kicks in the setbacks. It's like stress is like the precursor to me going backwards with my health. And even recently, dealing with some stressful situations, I'm like, oh, okay, I should have it by now. I should understand that when those things happen, and there are things that you can't avoid in life. My sickness came about, and it actually started when my grandmother was in the hospital and she ended up passing away. And my husband had surgery probably like 5 weeks, or maybe not even that long before then. And so I was taking care of him, and then we got sick, and all of this stuff. So even that, when it happened, was this
Right.
pressure and stress. And so I've had to learn really like to honor myself and my weaknesses and my lack, and where I need help and where I need to have a lot of grace for myself, because I've not been a graceful person with myself most of my life. I've been really hard. And so really learning to like pay attention to my thoughts and take them captive, but also be kind to myself. Like,
Yeah.
okay, wait, would you ever say that to somebody else?
Right. Oh, yeah.
So I can't, other than like stressful events and things like that, I can't think of any like one specific like trauma
Yeah.
type thing, but the
It's just a
stress,
lot of
yeah.
shoving it down.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's that book, I think I have, called Feelings Buried Alive Never Die. Like, basically, like, you can shove it down and you can try to have everything in control. You can try and like work through everything, push through everything, but it's just going to come out sideways.
It is.
And
Yes.
a lot of times, for women especially, it's chronic pain,
Yeah.
chronic stress, those kinds of things.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really true.
So what are your practices for when you feel like things are really, like, the stress is really building and like you are gonna make yourself sick if you don't get a handle on it, or B, when it's that train has come and gone and you are just done?
Well, I'm learning now to recognize it before it gets too bad, but it's still a process.
Right.
Sometimes it catches you off guard. You're like, oh wait, I'm like getting super stressed out about these things. But my process, I guess, I don't know that I have a super specific process, because sometimes when you're dealing with pain and the chronic fatigue, and something like, it can just like knock me out, like can't even get out of bed type thing. And so I really just have to listen to my body and what I can handle and be okay with that. And that's been really tough. My doctor even told me when I first started with him, which was almost not quite 3 years ago, and it's been a journey as well. But he told me, he said, or he asked me rather, do you, after you exercise, do you feel like you have energy the next few days? And I was like, no, I feel like I'm wiped for like 3 days. Like if I exercise 3 days later, I'm finally getting around to being able to exercise again. Yeah. And so he was telling me like, that's just where your body is. And until you like get to a certain point in healing, lay off of it, go on gentle walks, do like really gentle yoga, those kind of things, until, so like, don't put that pressure on yourself. But that was hard for me as somebody who, like, I danced as a kid and a teenager, and just have always like, that's been part of my normal routine, is to exercise in some way. So for me, a lot of times it's less about what I do and so much more about what I give myself grace to not do,
I love that.
Yeah.
So I can only imagine that as the mom of 6 and somebody who runs a ministry and somebody who like does conferences and podcasts and all of that stuff, that when you have an episode, or when you are really been wiped out and you can't get out of bed, the self-talk could really be harmful and detrimental. So like, what are some tips or tricks that you have to keep yourself loving yourself when you're feeling like you have so much that you need to be doing and you can't?
Yeah, that's good. I think it's important. I want to point out too that in that, in doing all of that, I do all of that stuff, but oftentimes like it comes in seasons. So, and I
Mm-hmm.
do have to have grace for myself. And fortunately, I work with people like on the Declare conference. They are so gracious with me and they know what I'm going
Yeah.
through. Like I've had to be really honest with them. And so there are a lot of times I'm like, this is my capacity right now. This is what I can do. But as far as being gracious with myself when I'm going through that, I just would say, like, really honestly, it's hard a lot of
Yeah.
times
Yeah.
to be gracious with yourself when you, particularly if you're like a high capacity person and you feel like, I mean, there's so many times that I will see other people who I'm like, this person is so much like I was, like getting all
Oh,
this stuff
yeah.
done, and I can't do that anymore. And sometimes there's
Mm.
um, not necessarily even like this. Sometimes there's a desire that springs up for comparison or jealousy. I feel like I've gotten pretty good at squashing that, just knowing like this is my journey and I'm owning this, and God knows what my capacity is and for what
Right.
He's called me to. He'll give me. Like He's
Mm-hmm.
honestly, His strength is going to be perfect, made perfect in my weakness. So
Right.
I'm okay with that, but it's oftentimes like the disappointment in me, and like
Mm.
if I had learned faster, if I knew better sooner, if I had done these health things before, like all
Yeah.
of that. And so that tends to be like the thing that beats me up the most in those situations. So um just like really accepting where I am with my journey, and the biggest thing for me has been, and I just feel like God keeps driving this home for me, is that my weaknesses are okay, and that He is going to do good things through my weakness. And I hate that sometimes. I don't want to be weak. I don't want to
Yeah.
feel weak. And sometimes when I'm sitting in bed and can do nothing, and like I don't even feel like opening my Bible or praying or
Right.
whatever,
Yeah.
um, God will just speak to me or encourage me in some way, and show me how like something that I've maybe invested in the past, like how there's still fruit there. And or
Mm-hmm.
get a message from somebody like, hey, I read this old blog post of yours, or I
Yeah.
listened to
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
podcast that you recorded 6 months ago, or something like that, to see that He's still doing things and using me even in my like super like I'm good for nothing capacity. So I really try to rest in my weaknesses and
Mm.
be kind to myself in that, just knowing that this is what I can do, this is what capacity I have, and God's still going to be faithful with all of those things that I'm like, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to,
Right.
so yeah.
Right. Yeah. So you've been for 6 years kind of working on healing all the chronic kind of inflammations and things happening in your
Yeah.
body. What does that like look like? What does that entailed for you? A lot of
Okay.
rest,
A lot of
I'm
rest.
assuming.
Not always desired rest, but a lot of forced
Forced rest.
rest. Yes, definitely a lot of rest. But I also think nutrition is super important. There have been times where I've been so frustrated with my, um, the issues that I'm struggling with, that I'm like, forget it. Like I'm just throwing everything out of the window. I'm going to eat
Yes.
what I want. I'm going to, do what I want, because it feels so like restricting in so many ways.
Yeah.
And also there's like this huge temptation to just numb yourself, when
Mhm.
you're dealing with something like that. So I have been through that, but I feel like nutrition is so important and so vital to me feeling good. It does
Mhm.
give me a sense of control too, when I know like I'm feeding my body well and I'm taking supplements that are super helpful. I've been more recently, I've been doing some stuff recommended by a nutritionist, like just some extra things that I hadn't really thought of. Doing some extra probiotics and like fermented foods, and
Mhm.
really trying to take care of my thyroid. I gained
Mhm.
a bunch of weight like during this journey that I never thought I would. would have to deal with. But of course, like it totally messed up my thyroid and
Right.
metabolism function. And so that's something that I've had to deal with. And that's been frustrating because, you know, I'm like, okay, I want to exercise, can't exercise. So,
Right.
you know, I want to
Yes.
restrict my food. So also just being really gracious with my body with like food and portions, and not like, I'm not going to be suffering with the sickness and then also like starve myself to lose the weight. I'm going to be
Mm.
gentle with my body, get good rest. It's hard for me, honestly, to get to bed a lot of times. Sometimes, like with hormones being thrown off and stuff, I'll be like, best intentions, I'm going to get to bed early and, you know, get really good rest. Um, and so that's been a little bit tricky, like figuring that out and how to get myself enough rest at night.
Mm.
But as my hormones kind of get imbalanced and everything, it's a little easier
Right.
to
What are
do.
you
But
doing for your hormones to balance your hormones?
well, I was doing some things with my doctor, taking some supplements and whatnot, but
Mm-hmm.
we've really kind of backed off a lot of that. I think mostly I am pretty much in balance now for the most
Oh,
part. But
okay.
so we're really working on um, my adrenals and
Mm.
thyroid function, because of course that affects everything else. And so
Mm-hmm.
I've been trying some things lately. I don't know if you've ever heard of like castor oil packs,
I
and
have, yeah.
those are like, look it up. It sounds
Yeah.
really weird, but I've had both my doctor and nutritionist talk about those, and those have been really helpful for particularly anybody who has like chronic infection they're trying to
Right.
overcome. And trying to think what else. Just really paying
Sleeping.
attention to good
Yeah.
supplements, sleeping, um, Epsom salt baths. I love to take Epsom salt baths. One,
Mm.
because it forces me to just like sit and relax and think, but also because you're getting that good magnesium, and
Right.
it's
Yeah.
helpful. Yeah.
There's
So,
a million benefits to that.
yeah.
To loving your body too, to sit in an Epsom salt bath and be like, I love my toes and I love my, to like,
Yes.
to really like focus on yourself and to take that captive your thoughts and to say like, this is my body and I love it, and it doesn't
Yeah.
work the way that I feel like it should work, but that's not like, that's doesn't make it less lovable or less worthy of care or any
Yeah.
of those things, which I think a
Yeah.
lot of people I've talked with who struggle chronically are just mad. Like they're just
Right.
mad at their
Yes.
bodies and
It's
feel like
so
they're
easy to
being
be.
betrayed.
Yeah. 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 That's
So,
true for sure.
yeah.
Yeah. And getting
Oh,
outside is really good too. I
yes.
know, like
Oh,
you said,
yeah.
it's super cold where you're at, and it's been cold. Like we've had back and forth days here lately, but just like getting outside and
Yeah.
being in the sunshine, and
Mm.
when you can, I just feel like that really makes a difference in my health as
Mhm.
well.
Yes. And then when you are feeling up to it, you take walks, yoga,
Yeah,
like those are
yes.
kind of your
Yeah,
um
gentle stuff. Yeah. So,
right.
yeah, walks and yoga. I
Right. You're not like
loved,
doing a vinyasa flow. You're
no,
like
no, no. I
chilling.
miss it.
Got
Yeah.
it.
I'm like, one day I'm gonna get back to that point. I hope. I
Course.
really hope and pray. And honestly, I believe for that. I think it's a journey, but yeah,
Mhm.
for
Yeah.
now, just gentle stuff. And I love that time because it's like walking clears my head, and it just like I feel like I can really pray during that time. And
Mm.
those are the times when I'm like, I feel more like, okay, God, I know you didn't necessarily put this on me, but I want to be like faithful in this journey with you. Like, and I want to learn like what do you have for me in this season of healing? I want to
Mm.
partner with
Mhm.
you on my healing. And so
Yes.
what are you saying to me? Because if I avoid that time, and I honestly have done that during this process, like,
Yeah.
okay, God, I'm pretty ticked at you for
Yeah.
this. Why are you
Well, that's
allowing this to
fair.
happen?
Totally.
Um, and but I realize that when I stay connected to his heart, I really see how good he is in the midst of it, and how faithful he is, and how he's like my source of strength to get
Mm.
through it. And so even those, like when I'm doing the yoga, or when I am walking outside, or even if I can't do any of that and I'm just sitting, in bed or
Mhm.
whatever, just having that reflective time is really, really very helpful and energizing, and
Yeah.
hope, like it gives me hope and all of that. So
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that. That's so important. And it's something that I think when you are feeling badly, it's hard to get yourself to do those things that you
yes,
know you should
yes,
do, that you know will make you feel better. So,
right,
like, to be like, I feel like crap, but I'm going to go outside and take a walk and be with God and reflect on my love for my body, like, that feels impossible.
right,
But I would
yeah,
argue that those things are way more important to push through and go do
yeah,
than to push through and, join the PTO at your kid's school or whatever. Like,
yes,
it's like,
yes,
those are the kinds of things that are going to lead to your healing, not to like more
right,
stress and
yeah,
more exhaustion or more of the laying flat on your back kind of
yes.
experience. Yeah,
Yes. Yes, that's so true. It just reminds me that it's a vicious cycle, and
it is.
it's a vicious cycle once you get in that place and you're getting down on yourself and you're not doing those things, but then you're just going to beat yourself up for not doing them, and then you're going to feel more
Yes.
like not doing them. But the
Mm.
reverse is true as well. Like once you start to experience that and you're being
Yeah.
kind to yourself, and you're like, okay, I can only walk around the block today. I'm going to be kind to myself about it. I'm not going to beat
Yes.
myself up about it.
And I'm gonna
Um,
go do it. Like I'm gonna go
yeah,
and get fresh
right.
air and it's gonna be okay.
Yeah, you're like being a nice friend to yourself, and
Yes,
that's really
100%.
helpful.
That is
Yeah,
super helpful.
yeah.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So, do you have any closing words of wisdom or encouragement for somebody who might be watching this who struggles, who has chronic
Mm,
pain, who doesn't want to get off the couch, who doesn't want to get out of bed, who tells themselves they're worthless, like
mm,
who's struggling, who's in the midst?
yeah, yeah. I guess first I would just say that it is so hard. Like what you're going through, I don't know if anybody's belittled that for you or made you feel like you're making it up or that
Mm,
you're exaggerating or whatever it is, but there are people out there, like we know that what you're
mhm,
going through is real and it's true. And I just want to encourage you in that you're not alone in this,
mm,
first of all. And then um, you are on a journey. Like it's a journey, and what you just keep doing is just putting one foot in front of the other. And it's okay to have hard days, it's okay to have bad days, it's okay to struggle and to feel frustrated with it, like all of those things. I think sometimes, like as Christians, we're like, okay, we can't go to that place of negativity. Like if I ever get there, but we
mm.
we forget that that's part of being honest with ourselves
Yeah.
and with God, and crying out to Him and asking Him to come and be our comfort. So like let yourself struggle. I would also say let yourself grieve because it's a loss.
Mm,
When
mhm,
you are going through something that's like stripping you and taking away from who used to be and who you were, it's sad. And
yeah.
if you deny that or try and push that aside or just try to be happy and make yourself all
Mm,
glad and
mhm,
joyful, that's actually going to be harder on yourself. And then I would say, like, just really ask the Holy Spirit, like, what is your plan? What are the things that you need to cling to? Do you need, one scripture that every day, like, that is your life source and that helps you get through? I know it's really tempting when we go through these things to be like, okay, what is this person doing? What is this person
mm,
doing?
mm.
And
Yeah,
just
yeah.
like we can get so distracted from what we're supposed to be doing and what God is saying to our hearts, and how we need to walk this thing out. So, I think that would be my
To
encouragement. And be
find
kind to
your thing.
yourself. Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
And just kindness always. Don't say things
Yes.
to yourself that you wouldn't say to your
Right.
kid or to somebody
Yes.
else you knew who's struggling. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I love that. Oh, well, thank you so much for being here
Oh,
and
you're
sharing your
welcome.
story. I really appreciate it. And I
Well,
think a
thank you
lot of
again for
people
having
get
me.
a lot from it.